Greetings everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, My Hero Academia, the final season.
Yep, My Hero Academia, the final season, episode 10. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. I'm off-center, but there's very little I can do about it, so I'm just going to be a little to camera right off. I can't do anything about it. I've tried. It's stupid. But anyway, we're back for more Anime Night in the dojo, and we're still in full epilogue town. Last week we had, the episode title was the finale of the Hellish Todoroki family arc, and again, it was more about Bakugo's character arc completing than anything else. But just because there's an episode title revolving around a certain aspect of a show doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be what the entire episode encompasses itself on. So, yeah, that is what it is. But it was solid, answered some questions, gave some closure to the family, that kind of stuff. We talked about the Natsuo stuff. Don't need to rehash that, but it's a very powerful decision, and I appreciate that the author went there. So, gotta appreciate that.
One thing I didn't mention, but that probably won't be brought up in the rest of the epilogue, but apparently in the actual source material, when it's going through all of the stuff that closing off all of the Todoroki stuff, apparently, the whole statement from the doctor about Dabi basically being on borrowed time, apparently he only lives for another year or so after that.
Unsurprising. The fact that he lives that long after that is impressive, obviously. So, either way, we're continuing the epilogue stuff. Again, for anybody who didn't see it, they are going to have the final chapter that the author put out for the epilogue in episode form and anime form. It's just not coming till May because there was 6 months gap, so they didn't know it existed. So they have to have time to do it. So yeah, that's coming. But again, this is going to be this episode, and then the next one, and then the final MHA anything maybe not anything in animated form will be for the main series anyway. Obviously, Vigilantes is still a thing, but will be in May. So
yeah.
Either way,
Vigilantes is still a thing. I believe there was some talk about the author wanting to do one more random side movie at some point in the future, and the author has also not totally shut down the idea of potentially doing a sequel in the future.
Right.
They're not committed to it, but they're not saying no, it's never going to happen. They are still leaving it open as they might still do it.
Yep. Give them some time off. You know what I mean? So anyway, let's continue with the epilogue town and see what this one has for us. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction, and people on YouTube for the discussion and review. So links to either of those things are where they need to be if you're looking for the opposite of what you're currently watching. So here goes something. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. This bit of the epilogue wrapped up a couple things here. We had this opening bit with Hawks and Lady Nagant, that kind of thing. She has a point. This is her choosing to stay locked up is no different than what Natsuo's doing. In all reality, she's making a choice. You know what I mean? You can choose to serve out a sentence even if you get released in places. I don't know if that's still a thing in America, but I know it's a thing in other parts of the world where you can self-impose whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's you can turn down pardons, or if someone tries to cut down your sentence for good behavior, you can turn it down.
Right. So either way, that's kind of an interesting thing to go on. And I made it's not really a joke. It's a reference. During the reaction there was for those of you who haven't heard of this situation, it's happened multiple times at this point, especially in America. And once again, not to get too political, but this is one of those things where there was this guy who was struggling to get healthcare and couldn't get it. So he decided to go to a bank and this was like 7 or 8 years ago now, but it popped up again based on just a lot of stuff that's going on right now. He goes to a bank and tells the teller, "I'm robbing you for $1." So cops get called on him. He gets thrown in jail for attempting to rob a bank. And it doesn't matter how much you're attempting to rob from the bank. You're robbing the bank, whether it's $1 or $10 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. But because he got thrown in jail, by law, if there's something wrong with them from a health standpoint, then they're required to treat the inmate so that they can keep them as an inmate. You know what I mean? So he got the health care he needed by getting arrested and thrown in jail. Okay.
Yeah, by law, they have to do everything in their power to take care of the inmates and keep them healthy.
Yep. So either way, that's one of those things. Well, Nagant makes kind of like the joke of it. It's also kind of a very real problem in the real world of like some people might be better off getting arrested if they're not getting proper health care, which is insane. But
in Nagant's case, it's less that she needs to be in jail and more just it's safer in jail right now than in the chaotic turmoil of the aftermath.
Right. And I'm sure Hawks can go get her out whenever he wants because he's the head of the Public Safety Commission now. So he could just go in there and be like, okay, seriously, you need to get out of here and help me. So just like, yeah, things are better. Promise. I'll pinky swear, whatever it takes. So this is one of the other like open-ended things going on with this is just kind of seeing what happens with those two because obviously they were the same. They worked the same position. So either way, we had the aftermath with like all the talking heads and stuff like that. So there's always going to be that kind of thing. People being interviewed and stuff like that, including this freaking guy before the girls here. This freaking guy who was totally, unless he's slightly different because of the eyes or whatever, but this character model was one of the guys that was working inside like shelters for All for One as like a sleeper agent, and he's the guy that got taken down by I forget who it was, but
the one I was saying that he's the when we had the whole thing of like Shigaraki commenting about being the hero for the villains.
Oh yeah,
when it was jumping around to people, he was one of the guys staring at his screen like rooting for Shigaraki.
Right, yeah. I know this character model has been used a couple times, so.
But yeah, no, of course, since Shigaraki lost, he's going to save face and play the winning side now.
Right, yeah, and there's always going to be people like that. You know what I mean? You see it in professional sports and stuff like that. They're called bandwagoners. That's pretty much what it is they don't want to be on the losing side ever. So, you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, it looks like the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, so I'm a Dodgers fan. That way I can never experience heartbreak. Or, oh man, the Cowboys suck again, so I'm going to go be a Chiefs fan or whatever, whoever is going to possibly win the Super Bowl this year. You know what I mean? You see that stuff all the time. You're a Cowboys fan until you realize that they've been ass for 30 years and then have to root for somebody else in the playoffs. It happens all the time. It's fairly classic, but that's just how some people are. They never want to lose, and you see it in sports a lot, like I was saying, where it's just like, weren't you like a 49ers fan last year? Yeah, but they're not making the playoffs, so I got to root for somebody else. It's like, are you kidding me? But either way, it's always interesting to see like interviews and stuff like that, how all the different kinds of people are going to react to situations like this and whatnot. The rebuild, again, even with people with quirks like Cementos and all the different like very powerful quirks for rebuilding and stuff like that. Let's not forget that Gigantomachia basically bulldozed through half the country to get to him. Okay? Yeah.
Gigantomachia caused all sorts of havoc. They freaking had all the like hundreds of jailbreakers just doing whatever the hell they wanted throughout the country, and then Shigaraki literally leveled multiple 5-mile radius areas.
Yep. So between all that, all that stuff was going on for months when Deku was in full like Dark Knight mode. You know what I mean? Everything was like anarchy, so everything was coming apart, even if it wasn't just like destroyed by various factors. So, yeah, it's the whole country almost got reset to like right before All Might's time. You know what I mean? Because we saw how the country was faring during Shimura's time, where there were pockets of Japan that were like more modern and stuff like that. But then they flip the camera and it's just like, well, there's a bunch of those screw bolt quirk things lying around in a leveled part of the city. You know what I mean? So it's only been like, 40 years since that. So, it's one of those things where the timeline of this series is very interesting to talk about. But
Yeah.
Either way, rebuilding is going to be some effort. He got his message to Spinner off, that kind of thing. And again, I mean, we talked about this last week where it was just like Spinner mentioning like, oh, you mean like the entire league? It's like, well, there's no league left, man. It's just you. And I think Compress is alive because he got arrested in the whole like first awakening thing. But
well, once again, I can't remember if he dies or not from his wounds, but there was the whole thing of like he manages to get everyone else out by like compressing parts of his own body to escape.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's alive.
He gets heavily wounded from that. I just don't remember if he dies to the wounds or if they just arrest him.
Yeah, I know.
After he gets everyone else out.
Yeah, so I really don't remember what's up with Compress, but for all intents and purposes, it's just Spinner. Everybody else is dead. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where, and again, Spinner is the one that Shigaraki arguably connect. Well, Dabi is still alive, but once again, the timetable for that was, whatever. And that's Dabi really wasn't. He didn't care about the league. You know what I mean?
Dabi was also the member of the league who never really was an actual member of the league.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he helped out Toga that one time, okay. But, you know what I mean? He didn't really care. He was just, the league was a means to an end for him. And it was kind of like mutually beneficial and neither side really cared, So, yeah. But either way, it was nice to kind of like get that like whole thing about the Nomu and stuff like that and how they've been working on just like different things. And they're not going to be able to remove quirks from him, you know what I mean? Unless they just go full quirk deleter on him, you know what I mean? So
yeah, which we haven't had any sort of showing of them being able to manage to replicate the quirk deleters. So Eri and Overhaul are still around, so if they really tried, they could probably recreate it. But outside of that, we've had no indication that anyone else has managed to recreate it. The closest we got was the fact that the Doctor apparently managed to make that reverse engineered bullet that All For One used in the final battle.
Yeah. So either way, just a bunch of different stuff being wrapped up and whatnot, which is good. That is things that needed to be done. We got the Chisaki stuff with his old boss, that kind of thing. That was something that was promised to him. So we have that. That was actually cool. That was actually a very solid read by this VA about like just they nailed like the weight of your actions, like talk from an elder. You know what I mean? For that.
Yeah, because once again, this guy isn't just his boss; it's also his adoptive father.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was the whole like deal with Chisaki, was that Chisaki would give them the information if they let him meet the boss again.
Yeah. But either way, that was a very powerful statement by the boss there. And then we rolled straight into the new first years and stuff like that, people being inspired by the stuff that they saw and wanting to help out and stuff like that. And there's always going to be people like that that are inspired by heroic action. You know what I mean? Some people become paramedics because they get saved as children, or a firefighter, or a policeman, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So, and these first years here being, one just having to enroll now, being only just like a semester away or whatever it was, just fully just committing to something, like reaffirming that this is something that they want to do. You know what I mean? Is the Crunchyroll player just completely screwing me over. As always.
Well, Well, once again, they're also a fully like accepted hero course. So like they passed their entrance exams and stuff like that. So these guys are actually, UA elite.
Right. Which again, UA probably didn't lax their standards for enrollment, obviously. But still, even if they had, it's still an elite school, and they're probably not gonna just like lower their standards. You know what I mean? Especially in this day and age where they want to make sure that you don't get another Shigaraki or All for One or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like some people probably might assume that they would lax their standards because they need to replenish the hero ranks, but also it's highly unlikely that they would have, because if anything, they need to put even more scrutiny on the heroes going forward, because that was the whole thing that led to the League of Villains in the first place, was corruption within the freaking hero population.
Right. I mean, just look how many people were part of the paranormal liberation stuff, like the Slide and Go guy. You know what I mean? There was plenty of them. And it doesn't take a lot of them. You know what I mean? It just takes a handful to cause a problem. You know what I mean? Because you have one person that's a credible leaker. That's all it takes. You know what I mean? Look what happened with Aoyama. They only needed one. So, one person caused all those problems for Class 1A, that kind of thing, leaking just that information. So, if anything, like Age said, they I doubt they lax their standards. They probably increase them just across the board. And I assume that's how it would be for any hero course across wherever. Doesn't matter, not just Japan. So,
yeah, no, just in general, they, as a result of all this, kind of have to just hold heroes to a higher standard, period.
Yep. So, either way, all this was great. Mineta crying blood. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a character like him cry. I was going to say something about this, actually, so I'm glad they did. I was like, can you guys believe that Mineta made it through the whole series without crying blood and jealousy? Well, he technically did, because this is the epilogue, but still.
Pretty sure he did at least one other time. But yeah, no.
Yeah, maybe
Mineta
I think I vaguely remember, like maybe it was during like one of the exams where it was, maybe when it was like his exam was Sero, and like Midnight caught Sero, and he was crying blood because he was jealous, and like somebody's like, oh, is he that jealous that he's crying blood? That's hardcore. I vaguely remember a line like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did at least one other time. Apparently, though, we'll have to see how much they get into. It probably won't be until the freaking final episode, though, because I imagine the final episode is probably where they're going to stick, like the episode 12. It's probably where they're going to stick more of the like adult stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently, Mineta is more or less considered to be totally irredeemable.
Yeah.
By the end of the epilogue, like he apparently does go on to be a fairly reasonable hero for a while there, until eventually he lets his perversion get him canceled.
Well, so he just goes full psycho from Harley Quinn. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. Hey, we got mini Edge Shot. If this is not a merch opportunity, I don't know what is. I'm just saying. I mean, look at this. He's got hands.
Yeah, he's managing to slowly rebuild his body.
Right. So he'll be all right, Again, merch opportunity. If this isn't like some kind of thing that you can like, something Christmas ornament, I don't know. Merch people, get on it. Give me credit. But either way, again, it was a solid enough episode for what it was doing and that kind of thing. And this kind of situation right here with like these just like average citizens is exactly what I was talking about when I was saying, these people don't have superpowers. They have quirks. You know what I mean? This guy's like kind of like heteromorph. He probably just has, how his face looks, and that's it. He probably doesn't have super strength. He probably doesn't even have the bite force of an alligator. You know what I mean? It's probably just, that's it.
Yeah, no, he just has the sharp teeth and the horns, and probably a slightly higher bite force than a normal person.
Yeah. So again, this is something that like I always see people talking about. It's like, well, it's a superpowered culture. It's like, no, it's not. There are just some people who have superpowers. You know what I mean?
And once again, it's a superhuman society, not a superpowered society. There is a difference.
Yeah. So this is just a good example of this, and I'd like to think this is the author kind of like driving it home of like, I'm not trying to rival Marvel. These are the average everyday citizens who have quirks and are 80% of the population are like these people. It's like, oh man, you know, that's it. While there are like the plot circulates around like the Hero Corps students and the heroes and stuff like that, the average everyday citizenry is going to outnumber those people, you know, probably like 1,000 to 1. You know what I mean? For every, you know, Endeavor or whoever, like pro hero, there's that has a incredible power. You know what I mean? Like Endeavor or Bakugo or whoever, you know, that has a incredible power. The average citizen that's like these people right here, 10,000 to 1, probably, even. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
that's actually, I was going to say, we actually did get some of the like the numerics back at the very beginning of the series, and that was the thing. It was like only like 1 in 10,000 students actually manages to make it into a hero course.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things to think about at the end of the series here is like, you got to remember, it's not just that the random citizenry are choosing not to use their superpower. They don't have one. They have a quirk that is like this. You know, it's like, oh, you know, like that one guy, the Razor Blades guy that Kirishima takes down during his thing, is like, without the drug, he can just make like little razor blades come out, and it's just like, you know, like a blade like this long. That's it. That's not helpful in like most situations. That's like one of those aggravating things that you see like All For One take from somebody and give it to somebody else and then enhance it. You know what I mean? That was like his gimmick. It's like, I don't want this quirk, take it away from me, and then he gives it to somebody else and enhances it so that it can do something. So
yeah, that was a big thing of how he would like get people indebted to him, was that he would save them from their negative quirks, and then people who either were quirkless at the time or who had a negative quirk, he would give them a beneficial quirk.
Yep. And that's how you ended up with Aoyama. Either way, again, all this was, you know, solid for what it was. And then we went into the whole... some people might have missed this, and this was intentional, and it's something that was talked about. And we'll talk about it here since this is the epilogue, and it doesn't matter because there's only 2 episodes left, so we're not really spoiling anything. Some of you should have noticed the fact that when the Ochako stuff was going on here, and she was just having this discussion here, and then when we moved into the thing with Deku, there was this. This is Himiko's quirk factor affecting her. That's what these flashes were, okay? And that's why she had such a big, you know, reaction to this, obviously, because quirk factors can be retained through various things, like, you know, in this case, blood. Himiko's quirk factor was in her blood. What did she do for Ochako?
Yeah.
An entire blood transfusion that cost her life. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, that increased their connection, which has her just completely going full Ochako mode here, which this was part of her character arc, was the whole, you know, who helps the heroes when they're suffering thing. You know what I mean? And it just compounds that whole thing, and it's really well done for what it is. But once again, it's one of those things where a lot of people might miss it, where it's just like, with the fact that quirk factors can be transferred and things like vestiges exist, you know, One for All isn't the only thing that can have a vestige. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I mentioned it while we were talking about this at one point or another, but apparently that is a thing that is like brought up in the most recent chapter, is that Ochako does have some semblance of a vestige of Toga rolling around in her head.
Yep. So it's just one of those things where you might not understand why they were cutting to white like that. That's why they were doing it. That wasn't just like an animation oof or whatever. That was like Toga affecting her. You know what I mean? Like the beginning of the vestige of Toga just kind of like being a thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It was handled very well for what it needed to be and that kind of thing. And in case anybody missed it, Deku used the last ember of All for One to get to Ochako.
Not the last ember, but like he definitely like cut down the size of the ember.
Yeah.
Because we saw at the end there that the ember got considerably smaller, but that didn't go away entirely.
Right. And to all the people that say they haven't had enough relationship milestones to be a thing, that's insane to me. You guys just literally got a compilation right here of the majority of their events that happened. You're telling me all these events that happened aren't enough to establish a relationship in about a year and a half's time? You're out of your mind.
I know, Chaco's always been freaking Deku's biggest supporter.
Yep.
Like, people like to freaking constantly point out the whole thing. It's like the dynamic between like Bakugo and Deku, but well, yeah, they were childhood friends. Most of their life was rivalry. Where like, yeah, they were technically friends and supporting each other. Most of their support came through conflict between each other.
Yep. So I just think
Ochako was always his support ever since she got introduced.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where people are allowed to have their headcanon. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not telling you to not. But the second the author says otherwise, you have to let it go. Because it's not your story. If it's open-ended and they don't confirm anything, that's one thing. But it's completely another when people say, like, I've seen a lot of stuff where people talk about, like, they didn't have enough moments to establish a romantic relationship. It's just like, are you insane? Did you see what they went through in this last year and a half that the series existed? You act like they had no anything. You know what I mean? They had while it wasn't constantly part of the series because this was a batch cast show, all these moments that they show off right here are far more than needs to establish romance.
Yeah, you know? I mean, even from the very beginning of the show, we had the whole thing of like, from the beginning, Deku had a crush on Uraraka, and then we later on got the full-on confirmation that she had romantic feelings for him.
Yeah. So to say that there's not enough there is just objectively incorrect and insane. So that's my stance on it. You cannot like it, absolutely. I'm not telling you you have to be okay or like this relationship. It's there and it exists. You can't refute that. You know what I mean? To do so is just ridiculous and spreading misinformation. You know what I mean? You can absolutely not like it. I'm not telling you have to like it. Again, you don't have to like something, but you have to accept it. You know, those are two different things.
Yeah, not to mention, even if we didn't get the direct confirmation that she did have romantic feelings for freaking Deku already established in the show, she's definitely gonna have romantic feelings for him now that, you know, her and freaking Toga are like merged together.
Yeah,
because Toga also had romantic feelings for Deku.
Yeah. So, just saying, it's one of those things where you don't have to like it, but you have to accept it because the author has hard confirmed it. It's over. Deal with it. .jpg. You know what I mean? So that was something I was going to talk about at the end of the series, but right here was a pretty good way to just kind of talk about it and whatnot for what it was. But again, it's just one of those things where, you know, you have to accept it. Don't have to like it, but it's a thing and it's there and it's over. It's really not that big of a deal. It's the author's story and that's it. And we all know that, you know, most shonen authors don't roll romance. You know what I mean? Mostly. You know what I mean? And yeah, for various reasons, whether they're not good at it or whatever, and they don't have to, but they know they have to kind of like put some inkling in there because it'd be kind of weird for certain, like, to have an entire class that isn't interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An entire cast that's not interested in romance at all is one of those things where it's just like, so they're devoid of a basic human emotion. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it'd be one thing to have like a random character like, say, Alistair, who's freaking Arrow Ace or something like that. But to have a whole cast of characters and not a single one of them have any sort of romantic interest whatsoever is weird.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where you don't see it a lot in Shonen, and they kind of like put it off till the end of series like this, or like how Naruto ends when he marries Hinata, or Hinata. It got pushed off, and it was there. The Hinata Naruto stuff was going on for like the entire series. I've seen a lot of people like question that one, and I'm just like, did you not see her stalking him for like 400 episodes? I don't understand. She like wanted to die for him in the pain thing. I don't get it. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, like similar to this whole situation of like, Deku clearly having a crush on Ochako immediately. Freaking the moment Hinata is introduced, that's like one of the first, like, most defining character traits we get on her is the fact that she has a thing for Naruto.
Right, and it takes a long time for them to put all the backstory, you know what I mean? Like the what happens to them when they're like super little kids, you know what I mean? And how like he met her and that kind of thing. And it makes sense and whatnot. And he never really thought about it because he's Naruto. He's one of the more like dense protagonists of all time until he's not. But you know what I mean? But I mean, come on. Most of Naruto happens before he's like 16, so you got to give him a break.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are dense all the way through high school. It's just that simple. So, but either way, I like what they're doing with the epilogues here. It's solid. I'm not really sure what else they have. I think the next one is going to be in the future, like when they're adults. You know what I mean? I think that's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much of the epilogue is when they're adults, but I do know we do get, like, at some point in the epilogue, like, at something like a 10-year time skip or something like that to when they're adults, and, like, kind of going over, like, well, who got with who on the relationship front? What is society looking like now? Who's the new hero? Like, what's the new hero rankings?
Right.
What did everyone go on to do as their jobs and whatnot?
Yeah, that kind of thing. So we'll just have to see what comes of that. But again, that's all I got. You know, it's solid. I don't really have any problems with it. But again, I had to make that PSA about Deku and Ochako because to say that they have no established anything is out of control. And I've seen a lot of it. This isn't just like, oh, I saw one random post on Facebook or somewhere about it. It's like it's everywhere. You know what I mean? You see a lot of people that are like complaining about it. It's just like, you guys really need to get over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ochako was the primary romantic interest throughout this whole thing. Like, they briefly splashed in things with, like, say, May and stuff like that, and Toga, but freaking no. Like, if you wanted to talk about a ship that a lot of people were freaking trying to pull, but that never had any freaking legs to stand on, really, that would be like Deku and Tsuyu.
Yeah.
Like, they had a bit of a connection right at the very beginning of the series of her, like, supporting him and being just generally herself. She's just very supportive of everyone. But then they barely interacted since then.
Right.
But there's still plenty of people who freaking try to full on fucking die on that ship.
Right. And there are people who've died on the Bakugo and Deku ship, which I have no words for that one. I don't care if you're gay, but there was nothing there. They were rivals. You know what I mean? Neither one of them has shown interest in the same sex. You know what I mean? So I don't know what you're on about. We even have this thing in this episode where Bakugo doesn't know how to handle having groupies. You know what I mean? So either way, that is what it is. Again, you're allowed your own headcanon. I don't begrudge people for that, but at the end of the day, when the author of the series, lays down factual, this is how it is, then you just have to accept it, whether you like it or not. And you can absolutely not like it. There's nothing wrong with not liking it. So that's all I got for this one. We've kind of gone longer than I thought we would for this one, but there was a lot to get to for this, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the last one. Well, the second to last one, but the last one for now will be next week. So, you got anything else, Age?
We'll have to see if we actually get it. But one other thing that was randomly brought up in this episode that we didn't really get much on was Gentle and the Brava.
Right.
I know they apparently eventually get married.
Yep. And then that stinger there at the end with the guy with the darkness power, whatever was up with that.
Yeah. I assume that is either just either a lead into, like I said, I believe I heard something about like the author wanting to do one more movie.
Right.
Like side story movie.
Yeah.
So it might be a tie into like a tease for that. Or the more likely thing I think is just that it's gonna just be something that like an underlying thing in the epilogue of like, yeah, while we're aiming towards another time of peace, villains aren't just going to disappear. We're still going to have more villains cropping up to take the League of Villains place.
Right. Because once again, it's not like every villain worked for All for One. Okay? It was just the next level evolution of random crime. You know what I mean? So that's something else that we can talk about later. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond ever watching. As always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. This is My Hero Academia, the final season, episode 10. We got one more to go, and then in May we'll do the 12th episode thing. So again, this is coming out on New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hopefully you stay safe on New Year's Eve if you celebrate that kind of thing, and you know, have a good one. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.